the Labubu doll of Bristol's Old City. In the winter of 1979, when the fog rolled thick off the Avon and swallowed the lamps along Corn Street, something strange happened in Bristol's Old City. Something that people still don't like to talk about. It began with a forgotten shop and a doll that should never have been placed in a window. The shop was Holloway's Toys and Curios, a narrow, leaning building between a boarded pub and an old bakery that smelled of damp flour and ash. The owner, Albert Holloway, was a quiet widower who'd been selling toys and oddities there since the 1950s. He was known for polishing wooden marionettes in the window. Long after dark, the flicker of his oil lamp reflected in the glass like a heartbeat. In late October of that year, a crate arrived from a shipping yard at the Bristol docks. No sender, no address, just a smudged customs seal and a faint smell of buried under shredded paper was a small wooden creature wrapped in stained oilcloth. Holloway unwrapped it and frowned. It wasn't quite a doll, more like something between a rabbit and a gremlin. Its fur was mottled and real to the touch, its grin carved too deep, its glass eyes dull brown with a strange wet gleam. Around its neck hung a tag that read, in faded red ink, Labubu. Holloway placed it in the shop window, thinking it might attract attention. It did. Within a day, the milkman claimed he saw it move. A child walking past said it smiled wider when she waved. By the third night, Holloway himself noticed that the doll had changed position. He would face it toward the street at closing, only to find it turned toward the counter by morning. He laughed it off at first. Old age, drafts, the shifting of wooden joints. But then came the noises. Toys fell from shelves. At night, the music boxes played short, broken notes even when unwound. Once, Holloway swore he heard footsteps, tiny ones, crossing the floor above his bed. When he investigated, nothing was there, except a faint smell of salt water and damp earth. By mid-November, he stopped sleeping upstairs and began keeping a candle lit through the night. He told a friend at the pub that he'd started hearing laughter, light, echoing, childish giggles that came from the shadows of the shelves. He said the doll's eyes weren't the same color anymore. They were darker, watching. The following week, he found muddy footprints on the counter, too small for a human, too precise for an animal. They led from the window. When he still hadn't appeared, his neighbor called police. When officers forced the lock, they found the shop cold and still. Shelves overturned. The counter cracked. A trail of small, wet footprints, bare and childlike, led across the floor and stopped at the basement trapdoor. The door itself was open. Below, the cellar was empty, except for a single oil lamp burning low, and a faint tune playing from nowhere. Holloway was gone. There was no sign of a break-in, no blood, no struggle. Only a few tufts of fur, brown, coarse, and damp, found near the counter. The Labubu doll was missing. The case was filed as a disappearance. The shop was sealed. But the story didn't end there. In the weeks that followed, locals reported hearing tapping sounds inside the boarded building. Through a gap in the boards, he caught a reflection. Two dull glass eyes staring back. The light from his torch went out instantly, though the batteries were new. By 1980, the building was condemned. But every few years, people claimed to see something in the window. A small shape. A grin. Once, a vagrant sleeping nearby was found the next morning with deep scratches across his hands, as if he'd fought something small and furious. His shoes were gone. His footprints led nowhere, and he couldn't speak for days. They say the doll is still somewhere in Bristol, maybe down in the damp cellars beneath the old city. Some believe it's cursed, carved from driftwood that came from a wrecked ship, a ship whose cargo was never meant to reach England. Others whisper it was never a doll at all, but something older, wearing the shape of one. Uneven, tapping lightly on stone. Sometimes there's laughter, quiet and close behind, and a voice, thin as breath, whispering a name no one understands. Those who hear it say it sounds like Labubu. If you ever walk through the old city late at night, past the old shop fronts and the boarded windows, don't stop if you hear something. Don't look into the mist. Don't glance at reflections. And whatever you do, don't follow the sound of laughter, because if you see it just once, you'll never sleep right again. And if it sees you, you'll never wake.